All right, sir, we are live. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Meet the Masters here with Tim Watson. And I'm here today with my friend George Celona from Impact Martial Arts. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you? Hi, everybody. Tung Su.
Thanks,
Glad
sir.
to be here today.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
Sorry, just streaming and sharing and all that fun stuff that comes along with live video.
Yep.
So, how's it going, man? We were just talking about some of the stuff happening this right now. So, talk to us about life right now.
Yeah, so it's good. It's crazy but good. So as you know, I teach high school and obviously martial arts instructor and dad and all that stuff. So school's been crazy because we were starting all the students coming back to the high school this week. Actually, it was supposed to be last week, and then they pushed it back to this week. We were in for 2 days, and then a whole bunch of kids came into school sick, and then they sent everybody home again. So I found out Wednesday at it was like 8 o'clock that I was going to be fully virtual on Thursday and Friday, and like all the lesson plans are ready, all that stuff. So it's been crazy with that, but I'm just plowing ahead. That's all we can really do. And I have three really great classes, and they're like really working their butts off despite everything that's happening. So whether we're on Zoom or we're in person, or half of them are here and half of them are not, we're making it work. And it's like I I was freaking out because back in October, when they told us we were going hybrid, we were going to have half the kids in front of us and half the kids on Zoom same time. I was like, I can't do it. I don't know how this is even possible. And it was really weird because the kids came in the next day, like they were coming, and I was like, I'm fine. This is okay. Like I can do this. And I felt fine from there. So, work's been crazy. Karate's great. We're actually really, really busy. We've been recruiting probably better than we ever have, which is great. The studio's growing, and we're trying to figure out where to put people because we still have 6 foot restrictions or things like that. So we can only have so many in the studio at a time, and the classes are filling up. Like, what are we going to do? So it's a good problem to have, obviously, and so that's been good. And our kids are working hard in school, so I don't really have to be hard on them, even though they were hybrid, and now they're back in, which is good.
That's right.
Well, 4 days a week, just not Wednesdays, and that's going well. So just busy,
Yeah.
it's a sprint all day, every day, and then go to sleep, wake up, start over. So
Well, and on top of that, you do stuff for the region. Well, and I'm going to go back to that in a second. I wanted to ask you. You said that on Wednesday you learned that you were going to go, back to virtual when you had a lesson plan in place. Obviously, it changes a little bit for martial arts, but how does that change for you in the school setting? Like, how does your lesson plan change from virtual to in person?
well, so it was frustrating because in a couple of the classes I had planned on doing live demos and actually having the kids try some of these things, pick up some of the equipment and do some of the stuff in class. So we obviously couldn't do any of that. So now I'm on the camera, I'm showing them, I'm like, hey, you guys will think this is cool. You could try it at home with this, you know. So just kind of had to adjust with that. And then I had to shift some things around. One class we were supposed to do a lab. So I was like, okay, well, we're gonna push the lab back. We need to move this, lesson forward a couple of days just to make it work. So it was some shifting around. It's frustrating, but there's not a whole lot we can do. So
For those that don't know, what subject do you teach?
I teach physics. I teach 4 different classes this year. So I have AP Physics C, which is like a calculus-based mechanics course it's like what an engineer would take freshman year in college. There's AP Physics 1, which is algebra based. And then I have an honors class. And then we have a college prep class, which is like our lowest level classes. I have 2 of those.
Gotcha. Wow.
So.
We got some people checking in. Lindsay and Natalie from Great Britain say good evening. They're checking in. They're a little later than us, but thank you for joining. Dennis TV says Impact Martial Arts in the family, or Impact family in the house.
Nice.
And then Bowley says Tung Su. So if anyone has any particular questions or just wants to say hi, feel free to shoot us a message. One of the things that I mentioned on top of all the other stuff you're doing, you also help coordinate the regional DON test, the written test for Region 8. So talk to us about all the stuff you've done with that and going virtual with that as well.
Yeah, so we were talking, it was definitely a few years ago, I had mentioned the idea, this pre-COVID, about, maybe taking it online and looking at what our options would be there. And at the time, it was like, no, we're not ready to do that, and then we had to do it if we wanted to give the written with the numbers that we have in Region 8. So, I took the written tests that we already had, put them in electronic format. We're looking at basically using Google Forms. So I made the test into Google Forms that are graded. And then we were able to collect email addresses from all the candidates. And then we send out the directions. I made like a video so people know what they're doing. And then they log on and take the test. So there was definitely a good bit of work going into it. Now it's starting to kind of cruise along. We've done it. This will be the 3rd time now. And the other good thing is that since we're doing this now, we've also been talking, Master Heiss and I and Master Setianto and a bunch of us, just moving more things online. So we started doing the black belt applications online, and this has been the first time we did that. That's been great because before, all the packets and all those forms would go to Master Setianto. She would enter all the stuff. So everything was kind of running in series. It would go to her, then it would go to me, then it would go to this person, then and so forth. Now all that information's coming in and we can all work on it in parallel. So, I can be working on getting ready for the written. Master Setianto can be setting up, okay, we need to test here. And then, we kind of work from there. So the written test, I think, was the impetus a little bit, at least, for moving towards more electronic. And I think that's going to speed us up and make us more efficient later on. It's still, it's still a work in progress. People are still learning it, but.
Well, I'm sure this goes for anything that happens for a martial arts function, but it's pretty crazy how much behind the scene work goes into doing a test, and then tournament is probably even worse than that. But seeing all the people that work behind the scenes, it's pretty impressive, and thank you for taking the time out to do it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because up until now, up until we switched to electronic, I should say, on test day, I took over grading the written tests from Master Peterman, Ken Peterman, and well, I guess it was both of them really, but they had a whole crew that would show up and grade the tests, check the bubble sheets and all that sort of thing. And so when I took it over, that's what we were doing. So we were grading it by hand and going through it that way. And then one of the first things I did was I switched us to these electronic bubble sheets, and we would scan them. And that definitely sped up the process, but we still needed a handful of people to come and run it. And I dreaded every time. I'm bringing the computer, I'm bringing the scanner. I got this giant box full of 200 written tests and all this stuff. I'm kind of glad we're electronic now, to be honest. But the downside to that is, before I had a crew of people working with me, and now it's pretty much, me. And people will check on me. Master Heiss will check on me, Master Peterman and stuff like that. Do you need anything? but it's basically me at this point. So it's a little bit scary sometimes, but it's good.
Nice. Well, again, like I said, thank you for the work that you do, because I know just the task of getting actual working emails for everyone.
We're still working on it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I have most of them, but I'm still getting emails now. This email address wasn't right. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, we're getting there.
Yeah.
The
Awesome.
good thing is we're earlier this time around. We have a little bit more time. I was having these conversations with people like a day or two before the test
Right.
last time. We're having them now, so that's good.
That's why I was talking to someone recently, and we're talking about doing the outside stuff as far as teaching karate is one thing. I didn't know I was signing up to also be a janitor and this, that, and the other thing. And this is just that falls under. You don't really think about that until you get to it. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess someone has to do that. So
Right.
Awesome. So let's talk about how did you get your start in the martial arts? It's funny. Everyone has a different story, but at the end of the day, we all have to start somehow. So how did you end
Ninja
up?
Turtles, man. Ninja Turtles all the way. So when I was 10, my cousin, you met my cousin Mike.
Yeah.
So my cousin Mike started training at Shin Karate in Philly. He lived in Southwest Philly at the time, and he started there. So did his dad a little while later. And we hung out all the time. We were together most weekends and stuff like that. I lived in the suburbs, but we hung out a lot. So he kept, kind of pushing me, like, you should join karate. You should join karate. And, I tell my mom that it was like, karate expensive. And I don't know, are you going to do it? You're going to stick with it, blah, blah, blah. So it took a little while to convince her. And then basically for my birthday, that was my gift, was to start training in karate. And I went to Shin Karate with my cousin, even though I was outside the city. And then I trained there for almost 4 years. I got up to Chodanbo there before I ended up moving to Palche, which I didn't realize was like around the corner from my house. But it was kind of a weird story. So, I trained at Shin for a long time, and it was great. And then when I got to Chodanbo, my cousin had already gotten black belt. He ended up leaving Shin Karate because when he started, Master Lou Marvel ran the school. He left, went to Florida. Well, when he came back, he opened a school in Philly, and my cousin really wanted to train with Master Marvel. So that's when my cousin left the association. So he was gone, and I was training, and then I broke my arm right before I was getting ready to test for black belt, and I was like kind of bummed out. I ended up stopping for a little while, and then when I decided to go back, that's when I decided to look at Palche, and then ended up there. So that was like 1996 actually. So I was out for nearly a year, I would think, a little more or less. I don't remember exactly, but
Yeah, I remember at one point, Jolene sent me some pictures of, East Coast martial arts throughout the years, and there were pictures of Master Eddie Stum and his
oh my God.
sister. And then you're in the background. I think you guys were testing for red belt or somewhere around there.
I think red or red stripe. Yeah, I think I know which picture you're talking about. We have one in the studio. So yeah, I mean, there were so many people who are now, masters and senior masters that I got to train with there. So, Master Fisher was an Edon when I started. Master Hopkins taught my class for a little while because I was in the kids class. We had the Borriello brothers were there then. Master DePietro, obviously Master Stum was there. So Master Stum and I came up pretty much together rank for rank. along with his sister. And I'll never forget when we were testing for that. It was that test. So it was, I'm pretty sure it was red stripe. It might have been blue belt. But either way, I just remember doing 2-on-1 sparring, and Master Stum and I, and we were both, felt like we were pretty good. And his sister kicked the crap out of both of us at this test. 2-on-1 sparring. And I mean, it wasn't even funny. I mean, she just destroyed us. I will never forget that. And my mom is in the lobby at Shin Karate, just like cracking up, watching her beat the crap out of the two of us. It was cool. Yeah, it was great because I got to do demo team there, East Coast demo team, and we had, so many awesome, talented people on that team at the time. I was only a brown belt or red belt at the time, but you had, all these high-ranking people who are now high-ranking masters and such. So it was an honor coming up there. It was really cool.
That's great. Now, obviously, Shin Karate, Grandmaster Shin was there. I don't know how often he was there, but do you remember the first time you got a chance to meet him?
So I remember seeing him a few times. The thing was, most of the time, the kids' classes would end up downstairs.
Okay.
If they split the class, they would bring the adults upstairs. And upstairs is where Grandmaster Shin's office was. So it was a rare sighting to see him. He wouldn't come into class typically or anything like that. The first real interaction that I remember with Grandmaster Shin was actually at my black belt test. So the black belt test used to be at the YMCA in Phoenixville, back when it was the small gym. And I don't know what happened, but somehow we got lost going there. I ended up being a little bit late for the test. So I show up, I'm late, I'm freaking out. And all I remember is I'm looking for where to go and whatnot. And Grandmaster Shin puts his hand on my shoulder. He's behind me. And I was I thought he was going to rip my head off. Right. And here he's like, it's okay. It's okay. And he tells me where to go. And that was my first interaction with him. He was super nice about it. Super cool. Definitely not what I expected to happen, me being late for the test. But
you were that guy.
That was the first time I really had an interaction with him, despite being at Shin Karate that whole time, because he was so busy with running the association that at that point, checking in on classes and things like that wasn't something that we saw, at least with the golf class, kids class.
As a kid at that time, did you have any inkling or idea that it was a global organization headquarters? Was there any feeling of that, or it was just class?
I really didn't have an idea of the scope of the organization at that time. I mean, I had gone to regional tournaments and stuff like that, so I knew it wasn't super small. But it says World Tung Sudo. I knew it was a worldwide organization, but the scope of what that entailed, I really had no idea until much later, when even black belt and beyond, you still don't get a real glimpse of that until you go to a world championship or something of that caliber. And that was something, world championships was something I didn't go to until I was a Samdan. So that was the first time when I was like, wow, I didn't really know. I always thought, because I knew Region 8's the, most crowded region, whatever, most people. So I figured, what's the world look like? It can't be that much bigger than the Region 8 championship. Wrong. Dead wrong. So it was an awesome experience the first time I went.
What year was that?
Right, 06.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was there. The 04 was my first one.
Gotcha.
And 06 in California.
Yeah, I was late to the game with that, and it's a shame, but I'm obviously glad I started at some point.
So you talked about you broke your arm, you took a break, and then you ended up at Palche. Talk to us about those those times. So that was at that point it was Master Raver, correct?
Yeah, so I came in and I didn't know it until much later, but I came in at a pretty interesting time because Palche used to be Tung Sudo Institute, and it was Master DeMarco and Master Raver together. And they had just split ways pretty much right before I joined the studio. I was one of the first people to join Palche as Palche, like after the split. So I remember going in the office. First of all, I marveled over how tall Master Raver was. Like this huge guy, you know. But you know, my mom and I went in and we met him, and he was awesome, but at the same time, like it was kind of scary. So I remember him asking me had I been training, and I was like, you know, at home but not in a studio. Do you still know your material, your forms, your one steps, that kind of stuff? And I did actually. I still remembered my forms and things like that. He's like, well, I want to make sure that you're really serious about this. So you're gonna come in and wear a white belt. He said, you'll do the material for your rank, but you're gonna wear a white belt because it's not about the belt. And then if you show us that you are, you know, serious about this, you'll test for your blue belt and then go from there. So I have 2 blue belts. I have my smaller one and the bigger one when I was slightly larger.
So how old were you at that point?
So when I started at Palche, I was 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So I trained there, and I really loved it. I loved the classes. It was small. You know, when I trained at Shin Karate, the kids' classes were big, and you got a lot of attention, and it was mixed. So we had kids and adults. I guess I would have been in the adult class anyway at that point, 15. But I got to train with adults too, which was cool. And I really loved it. And Master Raver was such a technician, and he would explain things so well that I loved it. And then, you know, I ended up meeting Angel there when she came from when Tung Sudo Institute closed. So the rest is history, basically, with that. So
You guys are you're about the same age, right? You're pretty much the same age.
so Angel's almost 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
Which I'll tell a funny story. So that was also an item of contention, I suppose, with Master Raver. So I was a little older. He was very protective of Angel, like very, very much so. So there was one night particularly where I showed up at the studio. Angel was there. I picked her up and we left. We didn't go to class. Picked her up and we left the studio and went out. And got back into studio a few days later, and Master Raver was like, come in the office. I was like, oh no. Go in the office. He suspended me because he's like, you were there. Your parents, her parents think you're here at karate and you're not here. Because I drove at that point. Angel wasn't driving yet. And he's like, you left here. They think you're here and you're not here. We can't have that. Not okay. And he suspended me. And at the time, I was so angry. He has no right to do that. Blah, blah, blah. I look back on it now. I'm like, duh, you're an idiot. You should have never done that. But, you know, at the time, I was a stupid teenager. So.
And now you have this full circle. Now you deal with the teenagers.
Exactly. Every day.
You're yeah, right.
Every day.
You chose that. That's your.
Yep.
Nice. So I look, 1991 you started. So it's kind of crazy to think about that this year is 30 years from when you first started in the martial arts.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
What can you think of some of the things that are different? Your wife said I got in zero trouble.
She did. He didn't even say anything to her. Nothing at all. And I got suspended. Whatever. I deserved it. Okay, I'll take it.
You know, looking back, training as a kid, you know, and then now as an adult and a teacher, what are some of the differences that, you know, from now to then?
Well, I would say, first of all, that you see a lot more females training now than you did then. There were very few. It was pretty rare. And now it's common, and we have lots of awesome female martial artists in our organization. So that's cool. I would say, well, sparring rules were different, right? Kick to the head was worth 2 points. And breaking was a lot different. I mean, I remember having to break 3 and 4 boards to test for red belt, blue belt, and I was a kid, you know. So I think, especially in that regard, standards have changed a lot. I think we did it more often, which was helpful. So there's that. It's funny that, you know, I'm watching. I just finished watching Cobra Kai, and I think back and I'm like, some of that was for real. Like that was how karate was when I was there, when I started, and things have changed quite a bit. So it's kind of funny. I remember like the demos that we would do. You know, you had Master Marvel or Mr. Morrison putting spikes through their arms, and it was crazy stuff.
I know.
You don't see that a whole lot anymore, that's for sure. But for good or bad, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Master Godwin and Master Kloss both did that and had pictures, and it's just like, I know Master Priest for years wanted to do that, and for me it was like, yeah, no, I don't really have any interest in doing that. I'm sure.
Well, I remember when Mr. Morrison did it for like a month afterward. He couldn't really do anything.
Oh, wow.
His arms are all messed up, and so I was like, yeah, probably not. Not for me.
Yeah, I'll pass. So, when did you get the opportunity to actually start helping teach classes?
So when I made black belt at Palche, they needed somebody to start helping with kids class, and I volunteered. So it was 1 day a week. I think it was like Tuesday nights or something. So I helped Master Raver with running that class, and I loved it right from the beginning. I loved doing it. But I think that I was always somewhat of an explainer. Like, I learned something, I have to share it with somebody else. So it was just a nice fit. And as I continued training and teaching, I started taking on more of those responsibilities. It became Tuesday and Thursday. And then later on, when I got older, there was an opportunity to teach the class on Wednesday nights, and I took that. We had the demo team, and between Angel and I and a few others, we all ended up running the demo team at different points at Palche and things like that. So I just slowly started adding more and more responsibility on. I didn't really shy away from it, so that was cool.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, once you're there if you keep showing up, you keep getting responsibilities.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep, we're going to do this. Okay.
Yeah. Couple comments. Shannon says Braden would love more open sparring allowances.
I'm sure he would, except
George Cook would as well. That's funny.
Yeah.
So let's talk about competition. And I mentioned this when I sent your questions to you.
Yeah.
Probably I don't remember exactly when you and I first met, but I'm certain it was during a sparring or a tournament.
Yep. So, I mean, how many times did you and I end up having to fight in the first round at the tournament? It happened so many times.
I think it was at least 3 times.
Yeah.
So it was the very first, it might have been my first worlds as a Samdan. It was either first or second. And I get partnered up with you in the first round. It's like, man, really? And then that next regionals. So that was in July and October. Same thing. It's like, come on.
Happened so many times. But you know, if when you look back, I think about all the awesome people we had in our ring at the same time. Like, I have this kind of love-hate relationship with tournament because when I was a kid, you know, and I was at Shin Karate, like I went to regionals and I did the tournaments and stuff like that. Master Raver clearly hated tournaments. Like, he was not a tournament person. He never told you not to go, but you could tell he was like about it. So there's still, I guess, a little bit of that in me, and I don't even have a great reason for it other than he did it. But, you know, so I would go to the tournaments, and just being in the same ring with you and Master Setianto and Master Davis, and all of these guys, I mean, I could keep naming all day, but just watching Master Mabruk, right? It was awesome just to be there to watch, let alone be in the ring. I'm like, I'm competing with those guys. Like, that's cool, you know. And on occasion, I would get lucky enough to medal, but you know, even if I didn't, it was just an honor even to be in the ring with these guys. So
one of the funny things I remember you telling me in those times is you talk about sparring. It's like, I either do really well or I do horrible.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I would lose a lot first round, second round. I'm not a very aggressive sparrer. But I tell my students this, the best time I ever had at sparring was at World Championships, 2010.
That was the year we fought, right?
Yeah. And I don't know why. I don't know, something I read, something I thought about. I forget exactly what got me started on it, but I got on this kick of, I'm not even going to watch I'm not going to worry about, I should say. I'm not going to worry about what everybody else is doing. Oh, he's a good kicker. He likes to throw this axe kick, whatever. I got to the point where I was like, I was barely watching. And I was just thinking about, what do I do? How do I spar? What am I good at? We're going to fight my fight. We're not going to fight their fight. When I did that, I did really well. I ended up losing in the gold medal round, but I've never gotten to that point, and it was World Championships. You know, I never even got that at regionals, and to get there at the World Championship was just like, oh my God, I'm here. You know, and I lost the gold medal match, but it was awesome all the way up. And the ring was huge too. We had, if you remember, they split us 2 or 3 rings.
Yeah.
We still had, I think, over 20 in the ring, even with the split. So it was wild.
Well, what you just said is great advice to anyone. Is fight your own fight. Like, don't worry about, you can look at what other people do and use that to your advantage and be like, oh, I'm really good at this, so I can do that when they do this. But other than that, be first, right? And then fight your own fight. So that's
the thing I was so bad at, was be first, right? I was such a defensive, and I still am. Like, it's still my kind of default.
Well, it's not a bad thing, but it is for point sparring.
Yeah, exactly. For point sparring, not the best way to win matches. And, you know, that was always a struggle for me. So even to this day, when I spar, sometimes I'm like, stop backing up. You know, I know what I have to do, just like make it happen. So.
You're getting laughs. Shannon says, what, not an aggressive spar? And Jen Cook says, that's what I was thinking.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, those were fun times. And like you said, I learned so much just from the people that were around us, you know, watching you and all the people that, because, you know, you're a couple years ahead of me as far as rank goes.
Mhm.
So just being in the ring with guys that I looked up to was cool. I still wanted to win,
Right,
uh,
of course.
but
Well, the thing was too, and I know you've experienced this and countless others that we've competed with, same thing. Like it just every time you went, you got a little bit better. And it was so obvious. By the time you got to Samdan, it was so obvious. Like, yeah, I was off the podium. Okay, this tournament I got third. This tournament I got third again. Oh, now I made it. I got a gold medal. That like just keep at it. Just keep doing it. Get a little better every time. That feedback loop was so obvious
yeah.
when I got to that point.
Well, mine was once Jeff finally left, I got a gold medal in weapons. Once Jeff was gone, I I got a gold medal.
Right.
A couple people more chiming in. Jovel says Master Angel and Master George were special with me. Thanks to them, I was able to meet some schools in Region 8, a dream come true.
Oh,
He also talks about wanting to learn speed breaks. So I think that's a good segue into what I think is probably one of your favorite topics is breaking.
I love breaking. So I read in your questions about breaking, and I think I have an aggression problem. I'll be honest, because think about it, right? What are my favorite activities? Martial arts, specifically, maybe breaking to some extent, and drumming. Like I like hitting things. That's what I like to do. Um, so yeah, breaking. I said earlier we did a good bit of it at Shin Karate, and then when I got to Palche, Master Raver was an engineer by trade, and he wrote his fourth and fifth dan thesis on breaking in one way, shape, or form, science of breaking. And at that time, I'm starting to get involved in high school in physics and engineering related stuff. So like that was like, oh my god, this is so cool, because he would really break down why we're doing what we're doing. You want to hold it like this, and you want to make sure it's like this, and all of that. So I like to just make sure that gets passed on, because a lot of times people, you might fail a break, but you might fail a break because the holder doesn't know how to hold for the break, and like all of these things go into it, and we need to make sure that we pass that along so people can learn about it. And I feel like breaking is such a good teaching tool because you have to hit it hard. It has to be an effective technique to some extent, and you have to have good targeting and all of that, or it's not going to work. Obviously there's some tricks to it and whatever, but bottom line is you have to have good technique if you're going to break.
Right.
And it'll tell you immediately, yeah, that was good, or nope, not enough. So I love teaching it. I've had the opportunity to teach it at Black Belt Camp. The kids camp, I teach it frequently, I would say. I got to do it for the leadership class for Region 8. And, we do it every year. We do like a big breaking class at the end of the year at our studio, plus, breaking other times too. But, and yeah. I love trying stuff too. All right, let's try this break. I'm going to try to do this, so just like experimenting with different breaks.
Yeah. When I was at Kaizen, we had you down and
Yep.
I learned a lot of stuff from that. I'm sure I shared the story with your speed chop. You have it to where you kind of twist and bring it in. And that night I couldn't get it. And I tried and tried and tried. And I think it was like 6 weeks later, I'm in the middle of teaching. And I don't know why, like the light bulb went off. I had someone, it was Dana. I was like, Dana, can you take this class real quick? And I went into the stock room, got a board, and boom, and I broke it first try. I was like, I got it.
I remember you telling me
it
that
makes
story.
sense now.
Hysterical.
Yeah. It's one of those where it just, I don't know why it took so long to process, but it's like, it all makes sense now.
I feel like teaching that speed chop is kind of hard because like I can explain it, but the bottom line is you have to be relaxed. If you're not relaxed, you can't be fast, and if you can't be fast, you're not going to break. So some of it's just is kind of feel,
Yeah.
and it's hard to teach feel to somebody. You know how hard you have to hit it to break it.
Right.
I remember I was at a tournament, and this is back, I miss when we had breaking in tournaments. I know it's a mess for a lot of reasons as far as competing and judging, but I loved it. And I was at a tournament, and we're doing breaking, and I was going to do, I forget, I think it was like, I wanted to do like a 6-board knife hand chop on a stand with, it was going to be, I don't know if I had spacers or I don't even remember. But anyway, one of the first guys that came up does an 8-board knife hand chop, no spacers.
No space.
Like, yeah, I'm like, I can't get up and do a 6-board chop now. Like, that's not going to do anything. I got to think of something. So on the fly, I decided I was going to do a 3-board speed chop. And I had never tried it, or if I did, I'd never done it. But I'm going for it. And I'll never forget. So I get up there. I had 2 other breaks, whatever, but I get up there to do the chop, and I hit it. And I remember because Master Fisher was my center. I get up there and I key up super loud, and I hit it, and I kind of, I guess, expected in my head to not break, and then the boards hit the floor. I was like, oh, and then I had to go do my other 2 breaks. I was like shocked that I had just done this. Since then, I've practiced it a little bit and, done it more times, but it was like, oh, I could actually do that. That's cool.
Yeah. That was like when you taught me, like I could do 3 the way I do it. I could do 3, but I was determined to get it the other way. So it's, that's one of the fun things about doing what we do. You can look at it from so many different angles.
Yep.
Master McCarty says, hello, good afternoon. It's actually funny. I actually just got a package from Master McCarty. He sent me a DVD that he made of the history of Tong Sudo.
Nice. Good timing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I just got it yesterday, so I'm looking forward to watching that. Thank you, sir. So you got your Impact 10th anniversary polo shirt on.
Yes, it's actually a couple of years old now.
Yeah. So talk to us about starting Impact, where the idea came from, how you ended up in Maryland, all that stuff.
Yeah, so Angel and I had been teaching quite a bit at Palche at this point. Our roles had grown considerably, and we wanted to do even more. Angel had started working in a job, but she knew, I think, that it wasn't going to be her career, and she always wanted to run a studio. Like, that was her thing. And at that point, I had already started my teaching career, teaching high school, a few years prior. So I was, in that. So I don't think it was quite on my radar the same way as her, although I wouldn't say I wasn't interested, but it wasn't like, number one thing on my mind. And, she really wanted to do that. And I wanted to be supportive of that. And I was interested. So, we looked at what our options were at that time. And, where we live, there's studios all in the area, very close. So there was no way we were going to be able to open a studio close to where we live. So I remember we were looking in New Jersey, and we were also looking in Maryland. Delaware was pretty much booked up by Master Godwin at that time. And so we went over to New Jersey, in fact, and Master Melchiori was teaching at a Bally's gym in New Jersey. And he's like, if you really want to start teaching, come check this out. So we went over and get in the gym, and, it's a pretty big commercial gym, got a space for where we could have class. But on the night we go there to meet the owners and do all that, they're cutting Master Melchiori's days down from 3 to 2 or from 2 to 1 or something, like cutting his hours and all this. And, we left like, I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to have somebody dictating our hours and all of that. So we're like, all right, what else can we do? We found Cecil Community College in Cecil County had like these, I want to say like extracurricular almost classes on the weekends. And they were looking for martial arts instructors. And so we signed up to do Tung Sudo at they had a campus in Elkton. And we started teaching out of there on Saturdays. It was just 1 or 2 classes in a little dance studio. And we started teaching there. And that's when we picked up Cameron. You remember Cameron?
Yeah.
And some of our other students there. But we didn't realize, I guess, because we didn't look into it too much and we weren't from the area, but we were pretty close to Master Godwin's Newark school. Yeah. So we ended up needing to move from there. So we had to go further south. And we started to look for commercial space. And we found a place in Aberdeen, Maryland. We were in there for a year, and the owner lost the building and a new owner took over. And then, long story short, we had to leave after a year on our lease. And, we had taken on this commercial space and it was quite expensive. And we only had a handful of students for a year. So we were financially doing pretty poorly. It was not the right way to do it. And then a place opened up in Perryville, and we had to decide if we wanted to keep at it because we were worried if we were going to even survive as a business. And we moved to Perryville, and we immediately took off in Perryville. And Perryville's not big, but there's a lot of families. It was just the right fit. The people there, and the way we teach, I think it was the right chemistry, and we took off and grew from there. And then a few years later, we had to move because we were too big and got a bigger place in Perryville. So that's where we are now, in the shopping center. So
you outgrew the video store.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I grew up in Northeast. So
Right.
Like you guys moved there. It's just like, I remember this building.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those, it's like, man, I wish something like this was around when I was a kid, because
Right.
there was not, I mean, you probably know the area a good bit better now. There's not a whole lot out there.
Yeah, no, it's pretty spread out, especially compared to what I'm used to in Delaware County. So
So how's the experience of now 10 plus years being a studio owner, cultivating a school kind of vibe and seeing people grow as martial artists? Like you're now able to do that much like Master Raver did for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I leave karate at night when my drive home's pretty long because it's almost an hour away. And it is a rare night when I leave karate and I'm like, I might be physically tired, but I leave, mentally energized. Like I feel like I did something good every time. Good for the kids, good for the adults, and not just the physical side of it, but, just people growing in maturity, learning to, cope with different things outside of karate. I think that being able to come to our studio and train has really helped them. And, a lot of our families at the studio have become, excellent friends because of, having a place to come together, their kids train together and all that sort of thing. So.
It's cool. Talk about your awesome wife, Angel, and I think if I were to open a studio, and I had someone to, like, I got the pick of who I wanted to open with, it would probably be her, just because she's just, I feel like she always has another idea. And then like when you guys started to do the videos, when everything shut down,
Mhm.
she was like a video making machine and
Yeah.
just,
But she's so motivated all the time that it really helps me a lot. I feel like we complement each other really well with teaching and running the studio. She does more of the, you know, behind the scenes. You were talking about behind the scenes stuff. She
right.
does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for the studio. Not that I don't do anything, but less. Um, the communicating with parents and billing and all of these things. She's much more involved with than I am. And it it's funny, we just sit down and talk about ideas and shoot each other's ideas down and come up with new one. We last week we were talking about scheduling. Because classes are getting big and all of this, and we're each writing our own schedules out. And what do you think about this? And so I feel like we have an awesome working relationship there with how we manage the studio. Things will get tense every now and again. We always say the number one reason we fight as a couple is because of belt testing at the studio. So and so is not ready to test. So and so is ready to test. What are we doing about this person? It's like the number one point of contention in our entire relationship is about belt testing. It's like, oh God, I don't want to be involved anymore. Just do it, whatever. So it's kind of funny. But most of the time it's not like that at all. Most of the time,
When you're so invested in something like that, you feel, you feel like your voice needs to be heard, and
right.
if there's, you guys hold yourselves and your students to a very high standard.
We try.
And, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it too, and I'm sure you've seen this, right? You get students sometimes who perform one way for one instructor and differently for another instructor. So she'll be there on a particular night and this person's crushing it. And they come into my class and they're noodle, and then I'm like, what? No, they're not ready to test. So sometimes we have to realize that it's not, we're not seeing the same thing, even
Right.
though we're, arguing about it. They're literally giving us a different performance one day to the next.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the tough things about having multiple instructors is is that the performance for different people. Shannon says he has kids who have started as little 5-year-old tigers and they're Edons now. It's always really cool to see kids stick around and grow into teams and adults.
I'm watching now. I'm watching people like Braden and Maddie and these guys that they all started in Tigers and Dragons class, and now they're big, strong teenagers who are awesome at karate. And not only that, but I'm watching them teach and I'm watching them lead, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome to see what they're doing right now. Like they're so mature. And I know I helped to influence that, and I know that Angel helped to influence that too, but we also have so much support from the parents and all of that. They're so invested that if we're doing the right things, it's gonna bloom tenfold. So
yeah, it's awesome. Master Kaluzny keeps messaging. He just keeps writing drum things: paradiddle, triplet, snare, tom. He's still waiting for a drum solo.
So funny story. I think you know this, but I don't know, and our students know this. But when we were totally shut down during the pandemic, we were running the classes on Zoom from the basement because our studio is an hour away. I'm not going to drive all the way down there. So we're running classes and just trying to do something different because it was getting old fast. And the one night, Angel's running the class. I said, I have an idea. Here's what we're going to do. I made a list of like some famous songs that had pretty famous drum beats in them. The drum set is also in the basement. So I was like, you're going to run class. While you're running the class, I'm going to like play like 10 seconds of a drum song. And they have to like comment in on Facebook and guess what the song was. We don't have any backing music. It's just me banging on the drums and her teaching the class. And it was like one of the most popular classes we had. Everybody's commented back and forth. Oh, that was Metallica. This was Aerosmith. It was a lot of fun. So it's just like something where I got to kind of blend my passions together, which was cool. I always say if I can find a nexus of karate, pizza, and drums, I'm set for life.
Great. Yes. George is also, he's got a pizza oven in his backyard and makes a mighty fine brick oven pizza.
That's right. So I'm supposed to make pizza tonight. I made dough last night, but it's really windy out right now. So I'm worried about lighting a fire out there, and because it's a wood fired oven. So I'm like, we'll see how it goes. Sometimes it's an adventure for sure. It's not like cooking in an electric oven.
That's right. So, we're getting to this hour mark, and we got about 3 minutes left, and we gotta use your props. So before I even knew who you had met you personally, you were this guy who you always had a particular way you stood. So when you stood, you had your arms, and you always had like the triangle.
It's so funny when people tell me about the stuff I do that I don't even realize.
But that's you, right? And then you have a very well-worn belt.
Oh yeah. So when you sent me the questions, I made sure to get the belt. So here's my Samdan belt. You can't tell in the on Zoom just how thin this thing is. If I tried to tie this on right now, I'm pretty sure. Wow, here's the worst part. Like, look at that. What rank is that? I don't know.
It's the ska belt.
Yeah. But yeah, if I try to tie this thing on right now, I'm pretty sure it would just.
If you washed it, it would just turn to dust.
Yeah, pretty much. I have to put it in like a glass case or something like that. So
how long did you have that belt until you finally retired it?
Well, I got my black belt in '96, and then I got fourth dan. What was that, 2014? So yeah, like 18 years in that belt. And luckily I got my black belt pretty much. I was just about done growing, because I can't imagine if I had gotten it when I was like 12 and had it that long. I know people.
It was a pretty long belt.
It's not too bad, actually. I think it's a 4, so it's not super long. I'm just skinny. Actually working on that. Been eating a ton. I'm like, I want to gain a little bit of weight, try to put some muscle on. It is incredibly difficult. I know other people are like,
I was gonna say some
rolling their eyes right now, but oh my God, like I can't eat enough to try to hit like you need a gram of protein for every pound of weight you have. Like I can't do it. And I love to eat, but like I can't do it.
Sometimes I look at myself. I try not to look at myself on Zoom when I do these. It's like I need to stop eating too much. Well, sir, we're just about the hour mark.
Yep.
Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to share, or anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, I want to first of all thank you for inviting me. I was slow responding to you. I was so worried about the schedule with school, and I had conferences this week and all. But I'm glad I was able to make it work. I was glad we were able to talk. Yeah, I think that just with everything being so tricky and challenging right now, it's like my big thing lately has been just focus on what you can control. Because I'm the type of person who I'll get really uptight really fast and get really stressed out really quickly. So I've been really lately trying to work on that. And you're like, all right, well, I can deal with that. I can do something about that. I can't do anything about this. You know, school emailed me and said, we're going to be virtual tomorrow. Like, I can't change that. It is what it is.
Right.
Do what you can do. But I think that advice is super important right now with everything. It's good advice in general, but with all of the challenges that we've had, just focus on what you can do. Don't worry about what you can't, and kind of just plow ahead. Worry about just doing a little bit better than yesterday.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are great words to live by, especially like you said, in these days. So hey man, thanks for joining me.
No problem. I'm glad I got the opportunity.
Yeah, it was fun, man. These talks are always a good time, and it's always fun to reminisce with anyone. But when I can chime in and add personal stories, that's always fun too. So thanks. Have a great weekend. Have a great upcoming vacation. I hope you guys have fun, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get together and train in person here sooner than later.
I'm dying to. I can't wait.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Talk soon.